The maliciousness at the heart of MAGA is intentional and disturbing. They treat serious issues like a twisted game. Take Kristi Noem, for example. Her ridiculous outfits aren't just for show, they're part of a cynical performance. Guys, when Donald Trump's extremist followers, storm blue cities, it's not just out of any genuine, concern for crime because they really truly care. They'd address the rampant violence in their own red states first. Instead of sending ICE to intimidate communities, it's just a cruel spectacle to them. That's all it is. No one plays make-believe because she's indifferent to the real suffering of people and communities being torn apart. Neither her or Trump sees these people as deserving of basic human dignity and compassion. They look down on them with vile arrogance. No one flaunts that toxic smugness quite like Jesse Watters, guys, who recently spectacularly embarrassed himself. We'll dive into all of this meltdown and how he truly bungled things up. But first, if you haven't already, please like this video and subscribe. It really does help us keep exposing this complete destructive nonsense. Now, before getting into Jesse, let's start by unpacking the blatant lies he's been spreading, as pointed out by JB Pritzker right here.
As someone who has, myself, peacefully protested since I was a kid, I understand the sentiments on the ground from some of the advocates, but I want to say this. Peaceful protesters are welcome. Federal agents who abuse their position to terrorize Illinoisans and incite violence are not welcome. They aren't receiving any orders from Trump to cease and desist their aggressive behavior. Remember, they answer only to Trump, not to the people of Illinois. In case there's any doubt about that, Noem, Bovino, and their agents have been escalating the situation outside the ICE facility and inhibiting the Broadview police from doing their jobs. At one point, state police asked CBP leaders for time to move the crowd to avoid any unnecessary confrontations. Rather than give state police time to protect the protesters and the ICE agents, Kristi Noem chose to drive her motorcade through the protesters to create clashes. Shortly after, Bovino came out to threaten mass arrests. These stories are only scratching the surface.
What ICE is doing right now is a direct assault on America, but so is the dangerous chaos unleashed by Trump and his allies. This isn't just about distant threats, guys. It's an attack on you, your neighborhoods, and the basic freedoms we all deserve, like walking down the street without fear or constant surveillance. It's about the terror of knowing your friends, co-workers or family members could be snatched off the streets by lawless thugs masquerading as ICE agents. What makes this nightmare even worse is the rise of copycats, people exploiting the breakdown of law and order to kidnap innocent people, all because the real ICE and the enablers have stripped away protections and humanity. Meanwhile, crime is actually spiking under Trump's watch, but he and Noem and the cowardly Jesse Watters couldn't care less. Watters even made a cruel joke about it right before breaking down live on air. Now, from the backlash, what happened is truly shocking and funny at the same time. We'll get into all of that, but first, let's watch the clip where Jesse thought it was funny.
And I do feel conflicted, though, because, Jessica, when people say, oh, there's this guy and these ICE people are so crazy, I get mad because it's a lie. But then when she says these ICE people are abducting and kidnapping innocent hairdressers and sending them to dungeons to be tortured, I think, well, that's scaring a lot of illegals to go home themselves. So the next time Jessica brings up all these scare stories about all of these illegals getting rounded up indiscriminately, innocent people being sent overseas, I'm just going to say I agree. Because 2 million illegals have seen these scare tactics that Jessica likes to talk about, and they have left by themselves. And that is actually working on Donald Trump's immigration policy's behalf.
What an insufferable, arrogant clown, guys. People are fleeing the country because they're terrified of being snatched off the streets, thrown into unmarked vans and deported to places where they don't even speak the language. Illegally detained, locked away in cruel, inhumane prisons. That's the reality these cowards just shrug off. It's actually horrifying. Yet these monsters pretend to care about the violence they're actively fueling. People like Jesse Waters are nothing but reckless instigators, whipping up fear and hatred. Now, what they're really doing, guys, is stoking political violence. Jesse Waters is basically telling his audience to terrorize the brown communities, to spread panic by inventing crime waves. You know, and if you want to actually commit to those crimes, guess what? Donald Trump has your back. Their whole agenda is to frighten people of colour with lies about crime and to undermine judges who are actually trying to protect innocent lives. And it's exactly this poisonous rhetoric about crime that landed Jesse Waters in hot water, forcing him to scramble for a public apology.
Didn't last very long. Last Tuesday, I spoke about the criminal history of Alexander Dickey, who had been charged with the murder of Logan Federico in South Carolina. I made an error when I stated that former Judge Bentley Price had treated Dickey as a first-time burglary offender and gave him no prison time. Judge Price was not the judge who presided over Dickey's 2023 sentencing. Dickey pleaded guilty in that case to third-degree burglary, a first-time offense, and served just 411 days in prison. A local news outlet, WIS-10, reported that the rap sheet prosecutors used to make the charging decisions in that case did not have Dickey's complete criminal history. We also reached out to 11th Circuit Solicitor Rick Hubbard, but did not receive a response, and I regret the error.
Not so fun now, is it, Jesse? When suddenly the spotlight's on you. You know, funny how I haven't seen Rachel Maddow or Chris Hayes forced to apologise lately, because unlike you, they don't peddle lies or twist stories to, you know, serve the billionaire class's agenda. While you spend your days spreading propaganda to keep people divided, what the country really needs is solidarity, something you clearly don't understand. Honestly, I'm ready to spend the rest of this video calling out him, how pathetic this guy is, Jesse Waters. You know, but so grab some popcorn because we're diving deep into the ugly truth about this guy. Let's rewind to when Jesse openly encouraged political violence. Does the right wing really fail to grasp that ISIS's everyday tactics are political violence? You know, they weaponize the state to inflict as much pain as possible, turning cruelty into a public spectacle. And guess who ISIS is recruiting these days, guys? Former Proud Boys and Oath Keepers and every other toxic extremist group lurking in the shadows. You know, they parade white supremacy and hate while hiding behind masks. Cowards who really terrorize families and communities. That's what they really are. And Jesse Waters, what is he? You know, he's completely indifferent, I'm afraid. I'm fired about this guy because they deserve to be called out. You know, Jesse just spends his time whining about elite Ivy Leaguers, you know, on the liberal media, yet he hosts the biggest cable show in New York City, smearing elites while protecting the real criminals. Now, the billionaire paedophiles are also involved who pull the strings behind the scenes. You know, he's protecting them also. He's just a mouthpiece for power, covering the worst offenders, including Donald Trump's infamous pals known for trafficking minors. That's who Jesse defends. So don't lecture us about elites, Jesse. The smugness oozing from you makes my skin crawl, you know. Here's the thing, guys. Jesse Waters doesn't actually believe a word he says at all. You know, it's a calculated performance for personal gain, just like J.D. Vance. They're all grifters, just climbing ladders, and that's just as frightening as the crazy ones. Sometimes some of them even slip up and hint about the truths about Epstein files and the Trump cover-ups. Accidentally, obviously. But Jesse, he's an actual joke, a puppet for billionaires, a caricature who thrives on deception. You know, when Charlie Kirk died, the response from Republicans was cold and callous, proof they don't actually care. Kirk was never a real person, actually. He was a puppet funded by wealthy interests to keep young voters supporting politicians who slash taxes for the rich and deny climate change while distracting the public with racism and fear-mongering. Kirk spent his days attacking black women, you know, and cheering on political violence against marginalized communities. And he did it all from the Oval Office with Trump's and Vance's approval. So don't expect me to take, you know, Jesse seriously, guys, when he lectures about families and values while actively tearing families apart. Now, what's the crime here? Being brown in America? Is that the real offence? Now, this might sound like a rant, guys, but F Jesse. Not interested in him. Plain and simple. He's a liar. That's his job, spreading lies and mocking their impact. But those lies hurt. They corrode the soul of the nation, and while Jesse Watters faces lawsuits and public backlash, Maddow and Hayes stand firm because they tell the truth. Now, next time someone claims, in the media that he's a liberal, remind them that Fox News and Trump's cronies dominate cable and podcasts, while real independent media fights back harder than ever. So I hate Jesse Watters, and I'm proud to say it. If you've stuck with me through this rant, thank you guys, and I hope you feel the same anger and frustration as I do, and I hope the elected leaders do too. And finally, act on it. If they don't, we'll just keep pushing every single day on this channel. If you want to stand with us and say no to people like Jesse Watters, hit the subscribe button please guys, leave a like and drop a blue heart in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one.